Hey there, Jake here from CVP. Panasonic have just announced two new cameras and a new lens, the S1 II, S1 IIE and 24-60mm f2.8. In this video, we're going to be mainly looking at the S1 II, but these two new cameras do share quite a lot of features. However, their biggest difference is the sensors that they use. We will also be releasing a video comparing a range of LUMIX S-series cameras later this week, but we'll cover the differences between the S1 II and the S1 IIE briefly later in this video. For now, let's check out what the S1 II can do. For our creative testing, we managed to shoot a couple of different things to try and get some different looking imagery and some more hands-on time actually using the camera. Huge shout out to everyone who let us film with them. Here's a quick little montage of some of our favourite shots from our time shooting with the camera. We've used Panasonic cameras throughout the years quite a bit, and these new S-series cameras will be easily picked up and shot with by people familiar with previous LUMIX cameras. And for people new to LUMIX, I actually think that they are some of the easiest cameras to pick up and shoot with. You have great exposure tools, solid peaking and monitor punch-in, and you can customize the menu for functions you access often. For these examples, we shot in Vlog in a few different formats and then processed them through Resolve and Premiere, depending on the format that we shot. The S1 II features a newly developed 24.1 megapixel partially stacked CMOS sensor with a resolution of 5152 by 3968, giving it a pixel pitch of roughly 5.9 microns. Panasonic have rated this camera at 15 plus stops of dynamic range, which is their highest in a LUMIX S-series camera. They've partially accomplished this with the sensor that they've used, but also the dynamic range boost mode, which looks to give you about a stop's worth of extra dynamic range. But we'll see exactly how much extra in our Latitude tests later in the video. The S1 II does have a dual base ISO, which changes depending on what gamma you are in. In Vlog, the low is 640 and high is 5000 with boost mode off. However, when you enable boost mode, you are limited to just one base ISO, which is 1000. This means working with this camera outside with boost mode on can be quite challenging, as you need some really strong NDs to still shoot at wider apertures. In the camera's auto dual native mode, you can go through the ISO range and see the clear change in the noise pattern when you hit the upper limits. The dynamic range boost mode is limited to just your base frame rates, so no 50 or 60p, and you can't use it in S&Q mode either. One nice thing I noticed is that when you switch between the regular video mode and S&Q using the dial on the camera disables boost mode when you go into S&Q and then remembers and re-enables it when you go back into the regular video mode. When boost mode is on, the camera will grey out the formats that are not possible in this mode in the recording quality menu. It is off by default, so it's something you'll have to go into the menu to turn on, and you can even assign it to one of the many custom function buttons in case you want to switch quickly on the fly. Right, let's take a look at our Latitude tests. For these tests, we grabbed a few cameras we think these new ones could be compared to that we had available. So in this test, we have the Panasonic S1 II, S1 IIE and S5 II, Nikon Z6 III and Blackmagic Cinema Camera 6K. Across all the cameras, we used our trusty Zeiss Otus 55mm f1.4 with a Sigma MC21 for the L-mount cameras and a Megadap Z to EF adapter on the Z6 III. Here's a breakdown of our methodology for these tests and the different formats we shot across the different cameras. For all of our Latitude tests, we shot ProRes RAW on the S1 II, S1 IIE and Z6 III and B-RAW on the Cinema Camera 6K. So noise will be more prevalent than if you shot a compressed format with more internal noise reduction. For our overexposure testing, we shot the S1 II at its low and high base ISO with the boost mode off and then at 1000 ISO with the boost mode on. Looking at the low and high tests, we can see good performance up until about 4 1/3 stops over, where we can see Sam's skin starting to break and white on our chart clipping. At 5, we see a big clip on Sam's skin. With boost mode on at 4 1/3, we can see that Sam's skin looks great with no clipping. At 5, we can see Sam's skin going a bit, but if we compare 5 stops over with boost off to 6 stops over with boost on, we can see very similar performance. Comparing the S1 II to the other cameras in our tests, we can see that it does perform well. The S1 IIE performs very similar to the S1 II without the boost mode on. The Z6 III looks comparable until we hit about 5 stops over. The S5 II performs a little bit worse than the S1 IIE, but that could be partly the codec limitations, and the Cinema Camera 6K starts clipping at 4 stops over. Looking at underexposure with the S1 II, we can see a clear difference between the low base mode tests and the other two. At 4 stops under, we can see that it's not quite as noisy as the other two ISOs. The 1000 ISO boost mode looks a bit noisier than the other two, but this is probably part of the processing of getting the extra dynamic range. Otherwise, the S1 II clips look nice and detailed down to the deeper stops, though you'll need to apply some pretty heavy noise reduction when underexposed this much. Looking at the S1 IIE, we can see that it actually performs quite a bit better than the S1 II. At both low and high base ISOs, we can see that it doesn't have as much chroma noise, but we can see CMOS smearing, which the S1 II doesn't have. The S1 IIE is still detailed and far more usable with less noise reduction compared to the S1 II at comparable stops. The Cinema Camera 6K performance looks similar to the S1 IIE, but maybe a little bit worse. The Z6 III and the S5 II look the worst out of the bunch though, with some seriously funky stuff going on in their later stops. All in all, the S1 II performs well in regards to overexposure, but it's certainly noisier than the S1 IIE when it comes to underexposure. It's impressive what Panasonic has managed to pull out of the S1 IIE sensor, especially with the boost mode on. Right, let's talk about the camera's sensor readout speed. This became a bit of a hot topic when the S1 R2 came out, but cameras are just tools for you to do a job and be creative, and each camera has some kind of compromise to it. And what compromises are most and least important only really will come down to your personal preference. This is all part of choosing a camera, and a slow or fast sensor readout speed is one of those things that you'll need to consider. For these controlled tests, we are using our own in-house measuring tool and software, so we can give you some numbers and compare them to other cameras we've measured as well. As with the S1 R2, when you enable the dynamic range boost mode, the readout speed of the camera gets slower, which isn't too surprising, and the camera warns you when you go into this mode in the menu. With the boost mode off in the camera's full open gate 3x2 6K mode, we get a readout speed of just under 16 milliseconds, and in the camera's full readout 17x9 4K mode, it's just under 12.7. However, when you enable the dynamic range boost mode, we can see the camera's readout speed getting much slower. In the equivalent sensor readout modes, you're looking at roughly 2.168 times slower. So in DCI 4K full readout, it's just under 27.5 milliseconds, and when shooting full 16x9, it jumps up to over 29.2 milliseconds. This is quicker than the S1 R2, but that's not too surprising given the reduced resolution. It's good that Panasonic give you the option for both. Do you need a faster readout for a more dynamic subject or situation? Just turn boost mode off, and you've got a decent readout speed, and then when you can deal with the slower readout speeds, but want the most dynamic range out of the camera, you can just enable the boost mode. We have just relaunched our Discord server, so if you want to chat to us and other industry professionals and aspiring creators, the link to join us is in the description below. Panasonic has always done a great job with cramming loads of different recording formats and options into their mirrorless cameras, and the S1 II is no different. You have the ability to switch between ProRes RAW and other compressed ProRes variants, MOV and MP4 formats. There are so many to choose from. There are full frame, APS-C and pixel by pixel sensor modes, which will change what frame rates, bit depth and chroma subsampling you can choose from as well. Here's a graphic showing the different formats. There are honestly so many options and combinations to choose from that I think it can be a little confusing. Thankfully, you can create your own list of formats once you decide on whatever ones you want to shoot consistently with. That way you don't have to spend ages scrolling through the pages of options. It's also great that we now have the option to shoot ProRes and ProRes RAW internally, straight to Civ Express Type B cards. ProRes RAW is still not ideal if you want to harness the power of RAW in a Resolve workflow, and it still has limited control in Premiere Pro by default, and even in Final Cut to a certain degree. But there is software available that can help with the workflow issues. There is now a program for you to convert ProRes RAW to Cinema DNG if you want to get it into Resolve while preserving RAW control, though this will add an extra step to your workflow, and the software does have a cost associated to it. This means that shooting compressed ProRes internally if you want to go into Resolve is still a good option, You just don't get the post-control of shooting RAW, but still plenty of information to pull around for a color grade. However, while working on this video, I actually came across this plugin by Octopus Cinema while perusing some Adobe forums about ProRes RAW support. This is a plugin for Premiere that enables much better RAW parameter controls for ProRes RAW. And honestly, it transforms how you process ProRes RAW. It looks like it debays the footage well and allows you to dial in a bunch of different parameters. It's also pretty reasonably priced at £99 for a lifetime license, which we paid for. I've put a link to it if you want to learn more or download the trial in the description below. Being able to record 6K 3x2 OpenGate is really helpful for modern day video, as so many projects now require you to monitor for 16x9, 1x1, and 9x16 delivery, so the extra height of 3x2 is really useful to get the most out of a single rush. This workflow will be even better with an upcoming firmware update, which will enable the use of multiple frame guides. That way you can have a guide set up for 16x9 and a social format of your choice, and monitor for both while shooting 3x2. You also have the ability to enable proxy video recording if you chuck an SD card alongside your primary recording media. The camera also has a range of anamorphic desqueezers built in, and a 4.8K 4x3 anamorphic format, which would be great for Super 35 2x anamorphic glass. And then you also have the 3x2 and 16x9 options for 1.5 and 1.33 squeeze lenses. On the left side of the camera, you now have a new mode dial where you can switch between the camera's 3 different modes: stills, video, and slow and quick. However, within the video there is also HFR, which has a separate set of maximum frame rates to S&Q. In the regular HFR mode, you can shoot a range of higher frame rate options, which include up to 60p in 5.9K, 5.1K, 4.8K, 3.3K, and Cinema 4K in UHD up to 120p, all of which are in 10-bit long op. You can shoot some 422 Intra HFR, but it's limited to Cinema 4K and UHD up to 60p, and Full HD up to 240 frames per second. In ProRes, you are limited to 60p in 4K, and then you can shoot Full HD, where you can go up to 120. In Slow and Quick, you are restricted to just the MOV formats, no ProRes or MP4. In this mode, you have a similar set of maximum frame rates, but you can dial them in much more precisely. Weirdly, you can't get UHD or Cinema 4K 120 in this mode, but you can in a 2.4:1 crop mode. All of our classic coffee bean testing looks good, especially the 4K 120 and ProRes stuff, which looks really good. One note here is that you can't enable the direct range boost mode when in S&Q, which isn't too surprising. One thing that Panasonic have always done very well is stabilisation, and the S1 II can provide up to 8 stops of it, which is about 3 stops extra over the S5 IIs. When it comes to video, there are a few different modes depending on what situation you are in. You have the regular stabilisation, then E-stabilisation, which has 3 different modes: cropless, standard, and high. Cropless is a new mode that was added in the S1 II and corrects distortion at the edges of the frame without cropping the image, whereas the standard and high modes crop into your field of view to help give you a more stable image. From the limited testing we did, the cropless mode performs well. You can see a little bit of distortion sometimes towards the corners of the frame, and it can occasionally look a little electronically stabilised with a slight jittiness to it, but overall it's very impressive. You then have the extra boost modes and even an anamorphic mode. So yeah, as always, Panasonic have delivered another excellent stabilisation system. As with the S1 II, the S1 II doesn't feature an OLPF or optical low pass filter. This means you can capture nice detailed stills and video, but it can be susceptible to moire and aliasing. There are still loads of cinema and video shooters out there waiting for the S1H replacement, which did feature an OLPF, as it was a much more focused video camera. Looking at our focus chart, we can see clear moire and aliasing across our chart, even in the camera's 6K mode. But this is a really stressful shot for a camera. We can also really see a difference in detail across the different recording formats and resolutions. So what balance of quality and file size you want really comes down to what you are filming. Up next, let's check out how this camera handles infrared light pollution. For these tests, we grabbed a range of different black fabrics, as different types will behave differently to each other, and then blasted an Ari blonde at them. We then went through the range of our Polar Pro variable ND, adjusting aperture on our lens to keep exposure as consistent as possible. This is an unnamed camera with its OLPF removed, as an extreme example of what IR pollution does to your image. In this first shot with no ND, we can see that our black fabrics all look good, and even as we go through the 5 stops of ND, we can see that there really isn't much of a purple shift at all, but we can see a slight warm shift when putting the ND on. This is good to see. It means that it really shouldn't be something worth worrying about when shooting. The S1 II has a range of colour profiles to choose from, including the new Cine-like A2. Here's how it looks with a few of the previous ones from Panasonic as well. It also uses Panasonic's full Vlog profile, so there are plenty of scientific and creative LUTs for this camera out there. You also have the ability to load in your own LUTs and even record video and take photos with them burnt in. This could be nice if you are looking to shoot with a specific style in mind for faster turnaround deliveries or social content. Panasonic's colour science in these modern cameras is really nice. You can get nice, good looking images fast, or colour them through Resolve when you need to. Panasonic have also confirmed that ARRI's Log C3 profile is coming to the S1 II, S1 R2 and S1 IIE, though you will need to buy the DMW SFU3 upgrade key to get access to it. Regardless, this is a cool addition and I can't wait to test it out in these cameras. If you want to keep up with the latest and greatest kit, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And if you want to buy anything you see in this video, or want to get your hands on the S1 II or any other kit for that matter, head over to cvp.com where our experienced team is waiting to help you. The S1 II has the same physical design as the S1 R2 and the S1 IIE. That means it's dust and splash resistant, has an integrated fan system, and tally lamps on the front and back. All three of these new cameras basically feel and operate identically in the hand. They are a nice middle ground between the larger original S1 cameras and something smaller like the LUMIX S9. They also all have the new fully rotating LCD, which means you can tilt the monitor up while still having the cables plugged in. It's a really nice design. It also has a nice fast OLED EVF, which is really great to use, and a new shutter closing function which you can toggle on and off in the menu. This allows you to enable the shutter to come down when you turn the camera off, and it's rated for up to 400,000 actuations, which is pretty good. The S1 II features the same updated autofocus system as the S1 R2, but with a few tweaks and additions. It's a phase detect contrast hybrid system that uses 779 points and an updated algorithm for subject detection and tracking. And from our time shooting with the camera, it performs very well. There is a new urban sports subject tracking mode for sports like dancing, football, skateboarding and parkour. You can find this new mode in the same part of the menu as the eye and face tracking modes. This is in addition to the already pretty comprehensive set of different subjects already in Panasonic's modern cameras. The S1 II also supposedly has improved high frame rate autofocus compared to the previous generation of S5 cameras. So for this we put them side by side in the same settings and then filmed Sam moving and running around at Full HD 180 frames per second. There's a clear night and day difference between the two, with the S1 II being much faster, stickier and more reliable overall. Panasonic have done a good job of updating their cameras and pushing the autofocus performance forward every single camera they release. Another nice addition to the S1 II is that you can now use the Panasonic XLR2 module to unlock some more powerful audio features. This optional top unit adds a couple of XLR inputs and more refined physical control for audio and the ability to record 32-bit floater audio to the camera. I do wish this was something built into the camera body as well, but it's good to see anyway. The scratch mics are also pretty decent quality on this camera, and you of course have a 3.5mm mic input for use with any of the many available microphone systems out there. You can also sync the camera with the UltraSync Blue via Bluetooth for timecode. The S1 II features both a CF Express Type-B and SD UHS 2 slot. This means you can use nice fast V90 SD cards for a lot of recording formats, but some of the higher internal data rate ones require you to use Type-B. In the menu, this is clearly marked on the different format choices. You can also record to a USB SSD if you'd rather as well. Just make sure it can handle the data rates needed for your chosen recording format. It's great to see CF Express Type-B as you can get some really good affordable cards now, especially compared to the high pricing of V90 SD cards. The S1 II features a lovely full-size HDMI port that can output 6K 30p, 5.7K 60p, or DCI 4K up to 120 frames per second over HDMI, which can then be captured in ProRes RAW or B-RAW with compatible devices. This could be a good option for those wanting the workflow benefits of B-RAW, but realistically internal RAW is going to be most people's preferred way of shooting now. When it comes to heat management, the camera has a built-in active cooling system, which is cleverly hidden at the front and sides around the viewfinder. You can also go into the menu and choose how the fan behaves, and also toggle a high operating temperature mode, which could be good for people in hotter climates. From our time using the camera on the shoots we have and during our tests, we've not experienced any overheating issues at all. As with the S1 R2, the S1 II is absolutely crammed with video focus features that make this camera very smooth to shoot with. The S1 II now has false colour, which is a really great addition. We bound it to the front function button, which makes toggling it on and off really quick and easy to do. They've also added a new function called Shutter Speed Limiter. This limits your shutter speed to your base frame rate, so if you've got it set to 25, it means you can't go lower than 1/25th of a second. The S1 II and IIe also have a new copy and backup function. This allows you to take your rushes from the internal media of your camera and offload them to an external SSD connected via the USB-C port on the side of the camera. This function is hidden within the playback menu here under Copy. Before connecting an SSD, you need to enable the USB SSD function, which is under the Card File section menu. You can then delve into the Copy menu and you've got a good range of options. You can choose what card you want to copy from, and you can even transfer it from the SSD onto your internal media. You can then choose to copy just a folder, all of your media, or even choose on a file-by-file basis. This is such a great addition. It's going to be so helpful for filmmakers and photographers wanting to back up on location without wanting to carry around a laptop or another offload device. These new S1 II cameras also have new extended control of the manual focus parameters of L-mount lenses. This includes the direction of the focus ring rotation and the ability to control what the focus ring does when you're in autofocus. This means you could assign something like aperture control to your lens's focus ring while in autofocus, and then when you hit manual focus, this changes back to manual focusing, which is a cool way to make use of the control ring when not needing it for focus. The S1 II is also well connected, which is to be expected with a modern mirrorless camera. It has built-in wireless live streaming capabilities, Frame I/O integration, and is UVC and UAC compliant, which will make it easy to use as a webcam for client meetings or for streaming through something like OBS. The S1 II is also compatible with Panasonic's LUMIX Flow app, which is more tailored towards video content creators. This app will also be receiving an update soon, which will be adding a bunch of features to it. I've put a link to download it in the description below. While Panasonic always focus on a lot of video spec and features, the S1 II can also shoot some great looking stills. For me, 24 megapixels is the sweet spot for balancing photography detail and video performance. The stills we've shown in this video are JPEGs we've processed through Lightroom, as the RAWs currently don't work in Lightroom, which is pretty standard for cameras pre-release. Thanks to the partially stacked sensor, it can also capture 70 frames per second blackout free using the electronic shutter. But this does change across the different RAW quality modes and focusing modes. The S1 II is also Capture One compatible, can shoot HEIF compressed images, has a new AI auto white balance function, and a multiple exposure mode. Right, let's compare the S1 II and IIe. They actually share a lot of features and design choices. They use the same body design, media, battery, menu system, updated autofocus systems, and range of updated video and photography features. But they have one big difference, the sensors that they use, and this changes a lot. The IIe features similar sensor technology to the S5 II and IIX, whereas the S1 II features its new sensor which hasn't been used in a Panasonic camera before. This means that the S1 II is faster in both stills and video compared to the S1 IIe. The S1 II can capture photos faster, has higher maximum video frame rates, and has a faster sensor readout speed. The S1 II also has a little bit more dynamic range and latitude, as we showed earlier in the video as well. The S1 II is going to be priced at £2,899, and the S1 IIe is £2,399. Even though they do share a lot, there are major differences in video performance and image quality characteristics that could warrant the £500 difference. But if you're unsure which one might be better for you, drop our fantastic demo team an email. With these two new cameras, Panasonic have also released a new 24-60mm f2.8 lens. This kind of sits between the 20-60mm kit lens from the S5 cameras and the 24-70mm f2.8 Pro line lens. This new lens is going to cost just under £900, which for an f2.8 zoom is pretty good. It's also much smaller than the Pro series lens, but much more in line design-wise with the 20-60mm, though improved optically. It's also a really good size and weight for an f2.8 zoom, and has a custom function button which you can redefine in the menu of S-series cameras. During our time shooting with it, I didn't really miss the 10mm difference at the long end, and I think considering its size, weight and price, there had to be a slight compromise somewhere. We didn't have loads of time to test this lens, but from the initial test images we managed to capture, I think it looks pretty good, especially considering its size and costs. I think it's going to become a good kit lens alternative for these new series of LUMIX S cameras. The S1 II offers a lot for both filmmakers and photographers. It's absolutely crammed with specification and features and can capture great looking video and stills. For video, you can shoot an overwhelming amount of different formats, have solid autofocus, class leading stabilisation in an easy to use package. But is this camera enough of a performance and feature bump to sway you away from your current camera? Let us know in the comments below. We will also be creating a comparison video between a few of the current Panasonic S-series cameras, so if that's already out, I've put a link to it in the description. If not, it should be out very soon. Which camera and kit is right for you will depend on what you need, and we can help you create the perfect package for your creating needs. If you want to come in and test these out for yourself, you can book an appointment at our UK or European showrooms where you can get your hands on and test the camera, rig them up, and check out some lenses with one of our knowledgeable technical consultants. If you want to book an appointment, drop demo@cvp.com and email. Anyway, let us know if you have any other questions about the S1 II in the comments. And if you like the video, please give it a like and maybe consider subscribing so you don't miss out on our awesome upcoming content. And thank you so much for watching.